Welcome to the St. Peter's School Board regular meeting of Monday, October 18th, 2021. We are in the governor's room of the St. Peter Community Center. We have a great agenda tonight, not a ton on here, but excited nonetheless. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would anyone make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We would consider request to speak to an agenda item tonight. You can see we have a relatively sparse agenda and we are not discussing masking. So with that, if there's anyone that wants to speak to an agenda item that is on tonight's agenda, they can fill out a card in the back in the next couple seconds here and pass that to Sarah. That would be great. Seeing nobody running for the cards in back, I will say again, we can have someone speak to an item on the agenda. And again, for a third time, it looks like there is no one who is desiring to speak towards an agenda item tonight. So we will move towards the approval of the consent agenda. Does anyone have questions or anything they would like specifically pulled out? I know we do. I'm looking for which item it is, and I can't see exactly which item it is, but we have graduates.
We do have graduates. We have 2 students that have participated in our alternative programs that have met the requirements for graduation. I'd like to recognize Olivia Melton, who worked extremely hard for this accomplishment, and Dominic Wills, who also worked very hard, persevered to get their diplomas. So congratulations to them.
Thank you, Principal Sikora, and congratulations, Olivia and Dominique.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I was down today at the district office and all the bills are in order.
That's the best way for the bills to be. Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Student spotlight. All right, Principal Doherty has some guests.
I have a couple guests, for sure. You can sit over there. Rosie, you want to sit there? There you go, buddy.
Welcome.
Now, I know the rules are usually, have one student spotlight, and a lot of times they're 4th graders. But I figured if I picked a couple 2nd graders, 2 plus 2 is 4, so we can add these 2 together. So, anyway, Board Chair Leonard, members of the board, I'm very proud to introduce to you Brogan Spector, right here, and Amy Paz Diaz. They're both 2nd graders at North. Brogan is in Mrs. Nixon's classroom, 2nd grade classroom, and Amy is in Mrs. Kep's classroom. I have to say, we get to do this 2 times a year, so we get the month of October and we get the month of February, and I always kind of send a message out to all the teachers, ask for nominations. A lot of times they align with like our Super Saints students. I mean, kids that go above and beyond constantly, just all the time. I had 10 students I needed to interview to narrow down, and I just couldn't make it down to 1. So that's why we have 2. And we have some questions for the students to respond to, just so you can get to know them a little bit better. So I'm gonna make sure you guys are speaking into the microphone so everybody can hear you. But let's start out with this one. Let's start with Amy. Like, when you're not at school, Amy, like, what are your favorite things to do at home?
I like to go at my neighborhood park and do gymnastics. I even go there when it's cold outside. My friends think I'm kind of crazy to be outside.
She likes to go play at the playground in your neighborhood, right? even in the cold. How about you? Brody?
Awesome.
What do you like to do when you're not at school?
I like to play Fortnite when I get home from school. I am on level 94, and it is hard.
He is a Fortnite master. I think I'm on level 1, Rogan. You know. What's your favorite thing about school, Amy?
My favorite thing about school is I really like everything about school. Mrs. Kep always does community building activities with my friends.
Yes, and I have to share this about Amy. So we're doing the interviews. She walks into my office and looks around and she goes, "I've always dreamed to be in the principal's office." And then I said, "Do you want to be a principal someday?" And she's like, "Yes, I want to be a principal." I said, made her promise to me when she has her own school, I get invited to come check it out. She said she would do that. That was the best line. I wrote that down in my journal. That's a great quote. How about you? What's your favorite thing to do when at school?
I like to climb on the monkey bars. I can jump off the second tallest one.
Yeah, you are a climber. You are always climbing all the time. How about, you're second grade students, so you just came over from South, right? So what's the biggest difference about South that are from South to North, Brogan? What would you say the biggest difference is? What do you really like about the difference?
That there is longer recess and lunch.
That's true. Longer recess and lunch. I would like that. How about you?
Is it this
How-
one?
Oh yeah. Let's go with that one right there.
I really like big challenges of North with all the older kids. Being there at South, everyone was young, and it wasn't challenging.
Yep. She just liked the challenge. She likes to see the challenge. Let's see. How about this one right here, Brogan? Like, what's the most challenging thing you've ever done, or at North? What's something that challenges you?
That there was a lot of climbing challenges. I tried to climb higher every day.
Yep, exactly. So you're gonna, next time we add on to the playground, I think we're gonna need your designing skills. Because you're always talking about that design out there. Let's see, should we go with that one? How about what's challenging with you, Amy, and school?
Math can be hard right now. We are working on finding out even and odd numbers. It's easy with small numbers, but hard with big numbers.
Very good, yep, and the maths. And then one of the most important thing is the support of families. So you all brought family members here tonight, right? So Amy, can you point out who's your family here today and introduce them?
My mom
And who else is with you?
and my cousin Lenny.
And then how about you, Brogan? Who's here with you?
My mom,
What's her name?
Becky,
Becky. And who else is back there?
my brother Mason.
Mason, very good. So we want to thank the families for coming and supporting the students as well. So those are our Spotlight students for the month of October. Are there any questions from the board for them? They're the experts.
What do you guys want to do if you think way ahead to when you're all done with high school? So you get through North and the middle school and the high school.
Years from now.
That's a lot of years away. What do you think you want to do? You want to be a principal, right, Amy? Yeah.
What are you,
What are you
Brogan?
going to do?
I want to be a SWAT.
You what?
I want to be a SWAT, so on
Oh,
the SWAT,
Like a SWAT team?
so on the SWAT van, I could like hang on to this stuff.
Okay. Protecting the community right there. Very good. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. for
Thank
inviting
you.
us.
Great job.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
excellent.
Good job,
Can I get on
guys.
my chair?
All right, you can,
As I tell other students that come for the spotlight, you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you do not have to. Thank you very much for coming. All right, we have our action items tonight. We have action item number 1, consideration of school board member appointment. So I just want to take another opportunity to thank Dr. Bill Soderlund for his service to the board. We were all sad that he resigned, but want to recognize the time that he did put into the board. And I know that while his school board involvement may have ended for now, that he remains a really big supporter of the district, and he's done a lot of great things for the district and for the school board, and I want to thank him for his service. We do have a pretty, in some ways, pretty prescriptive process and that is dictated by law, in that we have to pass a resolution of the board to appoint a new board member. That board member will be appointed after a 30-day grace period to serve until that position can be filled by the voters of the district, because that is how we prefer to welcome new school board members to the board. So that would not be this November, because we were within 90 days of the next election, but that will be November 2022. So if you project out a month and then think about November, it's really probably about an 11-month commitment, and then we will have an election then in November of 22, and then that position would serve the remainder of Dr. Soderlund's term, which would be another year until November, or through December 23. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's kind of the process. We welcomed people who were interested to apply, and we used a Google form and asked a couple of questions. But we had 13 applicants for the position, and we all went into the district independently and ranked kind of a top group, a top four. We didn't rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, but we kind of just took some candidates and elevated them, and we did that very individually, and that was then processed by the district staff, and we got together at a study session last week and looked to see if there was consensus. There were about 4 of those candidates, and Vice Chair Lokensgaard, you did the math really well, but I think you said 60% of people's votes or those group that we were listing went to those 4 candidates, so we felt like we had consensus. And then we talked about it further. So I think that's kind of the background that I wanted to give, and so that people understood the process that we went through. And then I will be quiet and allow the board to continue. Sure.
Chair Leonard, I would like to bring forward Mr. William Kaut as our representative to the board.
Is that an action item, or
I would like his name in there, in the resolution.
motion for the resolution to bring his name forward?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion? And again, this is a continuation of this process. This isn't the first time that this has been brought up to the board. And
If we were to do this again, do you think did we learn anything from it? Did we like how this whole process went down, or I'm just kind of curious how people thought of that?
yeah, that's fair to discuss.
I think what's interesting to me is that there was no, we could have really just went down to Nicola Cafe and went to a booth and just told somebody, hey, you want to be on the school board? You know what I mean? Because there really is no criteria that we needed to follow. We just needed to replace him, correct? I mean, so the whole application process, and that's, I think, what I want people to understand, is that that was a process we came up with, and it wasn't, like I said, we could have just, like I said, gone and gotten anybody. So.
Yep, that's very fair. And I think what we tried to do was arrive at at some consensus. I think all of those 13 people put their names in good faith. And I want to honor that, and I know we all want to honor that. It's a contentious time. We all recognize that. And I think we wanted to make sure that we would bring forth a candidate that could step in and succeed in the role. This is a very short amount of time for this appointment. And those were the things that I think we considered.
I was just excited that there were that many people interested in stepping in for a year to fill that spot. So a lot of qualified people.
Couldn't agree more, John.
Yep.
Yeah.
Made it really
Difficult.
difficult, and yet there wasn't many wrong choices. I mean, if any, on that
Absolutely.
list. And so that was the one thing that was really, it shows the St. Peter community really cares about the school district, and that's what I took away from it.
Great point. Should I read the resolution?
Yes, please.
All right. Resolution appointing a board member.
I think
What?
you have to vote on that motion that you have open, to put the name in the
Oh,
resolution.
we have to vote on the motion to put the name in the resolution. Thank you. That's a good point. So the motion and the second are to add William Kaut's name to the resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'd look for someone to move the resolution.
I move the resolution as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the resolution. I will read the resolution into the record. Resolution appointing a board member. Whereas a vacancy in the school board within the meaning of Minnesota statutes, section 123B.09, subdivision 5B, presently exists, and whereas the four-year term of the presently vacant seat began on the first Monday of January 2020, pursuant to the Minnesota statutes, section 123B.09, subdivision 1, and whereas Minnesota statute, section 123B.09, subdivision 5B, requires the board to fill this vacancy by appointment, which will continue until an individual is elected under Minnesota statute, section 205A.10, subdivision 3, as a successful candidate in a special election conducted for the purposes of electing an individual to serve the unexpired portion of the term of the current vacancy, and whereas this appointment will be effective 30 days after the date of adoption for this resolution, unless a petition to reject the appointee is filed with the school district clerk as provided in Minnesota statutes section 123B.09, subdivision 5B, within 30 days. Now therefore be it resolved by the school board of Independent School District number 508, St. Peter Public Schools, State of Minnesota as follows. Effective 30 days after the date of this resolution, William Kaut is appointed to fill the current vacancy until an individual is qualified under Minnesota statute section 205A.10, subdivision 3, as the successful candidate in a special election conducted for the purposes of electing an individual to serve the unexpired portion of the term of the current vacancy. If a petition to reject the appointment of William Kaut is filed with the school district clerk within 30 days after the date of this resolution and meets the requirements of Minnesota statutes, section 123B-09, subdivision 5B, the appointment is ineffective. That is the resolution. Further comment?
Could you read it again?
It's on page 34 of your board
Oh,
packet.
thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Well, then you don't have.
Hearing no further discussion, I will call the resolution. We will start with Vice Chair Lokensgaard.
Aye.
Member Stewie?
Aye.
Leonard, aye. Treasurer
Carlson, aye.
Dixon? Aye.
Clerk Dixon?
Oops.
Resolution carries.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
All right, action item number 2. Consider second/final reading of the revisions to the policy manual. Superintendent Gronseth, recognizing that we have a vacancy on the policy team and the chair of the policy committee is absent this evening. If you could go over that, and Tracy as well.
Sure, you have several policies for a second reading tonight, 707, 8, 9, 9 form, 10, 11, and 12. 707 through 711 are all on the theme of transportation. There aren't any changes being made to any of the services that we provide through transportation, and all of our same rules as far as eligibility have been put into the policies. And we have also had our athletic director, Shay Rohrkassi, review the extracurricular transportation, and that didn't have any changes either. The last one, policy 712, is regarding video surveillance on other than school buses. And that reflects our current practices as well. There's one change that we made to it, and that's because we do not have any video cameras in bathrooms or locker rooms, and wanted our policy to not include anything on bathrooms and locker rooms, because we don't plan on ever having cameras in bathrooms and locker rooms.
Great.
Just to make a note too, when they say that there isn't any changes, like when you say that, which is inaccurate, there's no changes to the School Board Association's model policy. So we had a policy on extracurricular transportation, and there's the model policy. Nothing substantially changed, but when he says no changes, it's just taking the wording from the School Board Association's model policy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. for
Good
that.
clarification.
Yeah.
And I think we've always tried to make a note if there's something that, we're changing policy, like we're saying, nobody has to ride the bus anymore. You know what I mean? That we would
Right.
say that, so everything's consistently staying the same.
When we're doing something different.
Yes.
Yeah. Great point.
The model policies just like use a lot more words. I'm just gonna be honest.
Well, Tracy, thank you for your work, and
I just love it so much, Ben.
and Member Hager as well, who's absent tonight, and we will fill that role on the policy committee as soon as possible, because that's a really important committee that meets frequently. Any other discussion? Anyone want to make a motion to approve these revisions to the policy manual?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Consider approval of tentative contract agreements for individual contracts and employment agreements. Superintendent Gronseth.
Yes, you have two contracts to consider tonight, the administrative assistant to the superintendent and the school information coordinator. We're also working on finalizing agreements with the food service unit and the custodial unit, and those will be coming to you next month after the contracts are finalized by the units. Tonight you have the administrative assistant to the superintendent contract. This includes some changes looking at rates of of other similar positions across the region. We were a bit below, and so we have made an increase to make that a more comparable salary. And then the school information coordinator position has a similar increase to other contracts that we have already approved.
Chairman Leonard, yes, the negotiations committee did review both contracts.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of your work, and John and Drew as well on the negotiations committee. That is a heck of a lot of work every other year, and we're in that year where it's a heck of a lot of work. So really appreciate it.
Have we had, like, has a company come in and reviewed, like, because I noticed that, like, the administrative position, like, that looks to be like that was an exempt position, and then Kurtz is a non-exempt or salary, non-salaried, however you want to say that. And, you know, I don't think that's something we decide. I mean, isn't it based on the duties that are performed as to whether or not that position is, I was surprised that Sarah's was. I mean, it's good or bad, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Sarah might want to mark her hours because she may works a lot more than that. But, I mean, have we had somebody look at that to determine that that's how that position should be?
You know, I don't know if we've had banding and grading done recently. Perhaps somebody else would know from the committee.
Didn't we do that 2 years ago with office support?
We did it with office support.
Yeah. So
But this is
not
an
all.
individual contract, not with all individual contracts.
Yeah.
So,
And not that I'm looking, I mean, it's just, I know
That's a good question.
it's a legality kind of thing. I mean, it's nothing that we can just decide. Sorry, Sarah's gonna throw a rock at me, but, you know what I mean? It's just, I was just curious if we, I think it's always been like that, but I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be.
Usually the banding and grading process, they look at a single unit, and so they're comparing like positions in a single unit. So like different levels, different, if there's, you know, a class A, class B, class C, class D, looking at not just the time that they put in, but the complexity of the duties that they perform to make sure that they're on an appropriate level for that position. Usually with an individual contract like this, it's difficult because it is a one of a kind in the district, and the banding and grading isn't typically done across a region. I imagine there are companies who do salary studies, and you know, that might be something that we want to look into.
yeah.
Thank you.
Just on the school information coordinator, I just think there was bad math
Yeah,
on 21, 22.
yeah.
So it should be reflected $3.48 or $3 higher. So
I didn't even catch it even after you said it.
so I don't know. I
So
just
the-
make that change. I mean, if that
Yep.
it has these haven't been moved yet, have they?
No.
So. Well, I move we accept these two contracts with the math corrected.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further conversation? Discussion, hearing none, move the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. That is the end of our action items for this evening. We have 2 information items. Report on student enrollment. Superintendent Gronstadt.
Thank you. Student enrollment is really the driver of our school district finances. And because it is such an important piece, I'd like to consider adding a kind of just a monthly update on where we are with enrollment, because as you know, our enrollment shifts from month to month, and with that, our finances shift month to month. Of course, we do plan for some variability, but this year it is very important, and so I'm hoping that each month we'll take a quick glance at our enrollment just to keep it front of mind. And I've asked Mr. Regner to share that with us.
I believe in the handout, there was a form, and we've monitored this since I've been here. We just kind of, on a weekly basis, Chris from our office updates the numbers from Mars, and we track them, and I guess, I don't know about Superintendent Gronseth, but when this comes out, it's the first thing I usually open on Monday morning, because, and this year, typically through October, I know we talked about this a little bit last month, typically through September, it shifts a lot because, people didn't report that they left, or, people that didn't come in, didn't get started right away, or just a lot of shifting around in September. Usually we get to about October 1st and it stays somewhat more steady. The first column is our budget column, what we base that off of, what we approved last June with the numbers. And we colored a lot here, it didn't get colored here, but you can see hopefully you can read that. Our total budget was about just short of 2,100. It's down a few students from last year, but you can see we are somewhat behind numbers. Our enrollment has been down this year. It's stabilized here the last couple of weeks, so I think it's probably a fairly accurate number now, unless something else would really change. But we are down probably about 80 students. It's fairly consistent over the K through 12. South, north, and the middle school. The high school is not down quite as much, but, then that's from what we originally budgeted. But, you can see the numbers there. Within that, there is actually a lot of shifting each week. There'll be kids come and kids go, and typically it holds about the same. But like I said, this year we have seen a decrease. I know that you've done some research on why. It's a number of different factors, it seems like, why we're down this year. Some is housing, some is, the masking each way. Some is they went to the more non-public schools. So we've seen a lot of different reasons. There's probably not one total one, but, a shift, just a general shifting downward in the enrollment. So.
Something I wanted to mention is there's a difference between the numbers that you see and the numbers that our financing is based on. And that is because it goes through a weighting process, and it becomes known as average pupil units, or APU. And so as our hope is that over the course of the year, we're just going to start adding some layers to this report, and doing a little education for the public as well about how all of that works.
So, I don't know if you have this information in front of you, and it's completely okay if you don't, but just anecdotally, kids are going somewhere, so if it's housing, they could be leaving the area. If it's making other decisions, what are the other public districts, like what's Mankato look like, or some of the other ones? Do we have an idea if they're seeing similar sorts of things?
Across the country and across the state, there are seeing districts who are losing enrollment. There's more students being homeschooled, more students going online, and there's students moving from district to district as well. And so certainly there are, some districts that are having more students, but the majority of them are seeing fewer students. I know when we're still kind of looking through our own data, and there are 15 to 20 students who had to leave because of changes in housing. There are some large houses sold that were rentals prior, and so those families couldn't find other housing that would fit their family. And so that was 15 to 20 of our students that went. And when we look at where students are going, boy, it's everywhere. There were students that moved to Africa, to Guatemala, to Texas, to California, to New York, and many just more regional moves, some to the metro area for jobs. and others for family situations. So we're still digging into that. We don't always know where families go because sometimes they just leave and we don't know they're gone. And sometimes it takes a very long time for them to show back up in our reports, and especially if they move out of state, we don't always find out. So
Thank you.
I feel like, I don't know if it was I was on the board or just paying a lot of attention. Isn't there a month where you guys always used to look at that? Like where I thought there was a report that, what month is that? Or is that coming up? You know what I mean? Where it would say they went to homeschooled or private or,
Yeah.
wasn't there? Am I
Yeah,
imagining
no,
it?
I think it's January, and I think maybe Mr. Doherty usually does some of that, helps out with some of that information
Yeah, it'll
too.
be next month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or is it
I just was
next month?
trying to remember,
Our compulsory
it's-
report.
yeah,
Yep.
And it's students that still reside in the district but are going elsewhere.
okay,
It's not people, it's not students that have left,
yeah.
if I
okay.
remember right.
And we try and follow up with those students, and I think we ask them to complete a survey, right?
In the past, Kurt Hildebrands done that, followed up with it.
So is that something that families just get in the mail then, or an email, or,
I'll have to find out.
okay.
We have typically seen the results of that survey.
Okay.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think another factor, and that seems to be just, and it's, again, it's anecdotal, but I think there's some merit to it, is the amount or the availability of childcare in our community is very tight right now. And I think, that I think has an effect on, if I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, I mean, it's tough to find childcare right now. And so I think that's having an impact as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. First reading of revisions to the policy manual, different policies. Same manual, different policies.
That's right. There are two policies that are coming before you for a first reading. The first is regarding vending machines. We don't currently have a policy on vending machines, but we are required to have one, and so this covers our vending machines. Right now, I believe there's vending machines in the middle school lobby, and there's a few in maybe our teacher workrooms. And so we don't have a lot of them, and I don't believe that they're accessed during the school day. Is that right? Thank you. But we are required to have that policy. And then the second is policy 722 regarding public data requests. We don't currently have an official policy, and so this lays out a process for fulfilling those public data requests. And there's also a public data request form that is being added that would become the official form. This all follows state and federal laws regarding public data requests.
Is there state statute on vending machines? I mean, is that why we're adding it?
There's federal law regarding what can be sold in vending machines.
Interesting.
Apparently they frown on Doritos and Twix bars. That's what I grew up on in high school.
Me too.
Yeah, it has to follow the federal health guidelines.
But to be fair, look how we turned out.
I-
Probably a
So
good
bring
idea.
back the Doritos.
Probably a good idea that they take those out of
My
there.
parents thought they had problems.
You can still have Doritos, they just have to be baked.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, well, thank you. Now we move on to building principles and reports.
right, yes.
You have to pass the
Tiered
microphone.
seating.
Well, I will give my report and then I'll step out, Janice, so you can.
And then I'll
get in.
follow you.
All right, so it's been a while since we've been at this table in this setting, and so it feels good to be back. So things are rolling in early childhood. Next week will be our 7th week of school. We continue to focus on safety right now, and as I mentioned at the last meeting, we're focused on bus safety, fire safety, and then our safety drills in the event that we had someone who shouldn't be in our building. So we continue to work on that. We had our first early childhood screening of the year last Thursday. We had a great turnout. We had a number of cancellations last spring due to students or children being exposed to COVID, so we were glad to have a full house again. We have had an influx of referrals for 3-year-olds, which is a little bit unusual this time of the year, which means that we will do assessments if parents are interested for those 3-year-olds to see if they may qualify for special education services. If they do, one of the questions we have is, where are the spots for those kids? And so certainly we have them and we'll make them, but that is what we're doing right now. We're reviewing our program structure to see how we might be able to shift things to make room for more 3-year-olds. So that's exciting. We love our 3s and 4s and 5s, but so that's where we're at with that. And then, yeah, so that is, I think, it for early childhood.
All right, and at South Elementary, we're in our 7th week of school, and it seems like this year it's taking us just a little bit longer to get used to that, what it means to be in school. I mean, we're working with students who just didn't have that opportunity, and so we have adjusted, the wind to our sails, and we're taking them at where they're at, and we are really working with our top 20 programming. And that very first month of school, typically the theme is creating a culture of learning. So using that school-wide language throughout and using our system that we have in place to help those students really realize what does it mean to be a part of a group and to be part of an organization where everyone cares for you and we need to take care of one another, and what does that really look like? In October, we're looking at something that we call the line. And they really look at the line as not above the line as in acceptable or below the line unacceptable, but rather just trying to teach students to recognize that they have feelings, they have moods, they have attitudes, and that we all experience times when we're above the line and below the line. But what can we do then to do some of that shifting and helping them learn those self-regulation skills to help them move from maybe they're at a below the line when they come to school, but how can we change our thinking and change our direction and help us to be a little bit more successful and then help others succeed at school as well. UT talked a little bit about some of our safety drills. We too have been practicing those, and we also had Fire Prevention Week last week. So we'd like to thank the St. Peter Volunteer Fire Department. They gave 13 separate presentations out in our big loop out there, and they brought the fire trucks, and it's just always a fun time for students when they get a chance to see the firemen in their full, it's not a costume, the equipment. I lost the word there for a second. And to see the fire truck and see the fire truck. Well, I've heard so much about costumes the minute we hit October, every single day I hear the update on what the costumes are. So yeah, my mind has already been shifted to that. So it's been a great start here at South. You know what? I will read.
Greetings from North Elementary. It's fun to hear Doreen talk about some of those themes that are going on at South, because those same ones are happening at North, and that vertical alignment is so important right now, especially as kids are coming back in a regular format as compared to over the last number of months. Establishing that culture of learners. They were talking about the line. Our new one is just what's called the frame. Putting things in perspective as far as like if I'm looking at difficult situations in the right light, and that's that building-wide approach, right? We talk about social emotional learning a lot, and that's that tier 1 approach where everybody's kind of hearing the same verbiage, responding in the same manner. It really provides for a lot of clarity for the students, and the students need that right now, and staff as well. It's really helping everybody. So we're really laying that foundation for relational education first, and now in doing walkthroughs, and Mr. Unseth was over at North last week going through, you can see like that's been established, and the curriculum is now flying along at a really good clip. But some other things we have going on, we're nearing the end of the grading period, so staff, we're talking about our new, we have a new K-4 report card that we're implementing this school year. So getting that word out and the structure out to the parents, how that's going to look different this year, so they can read that document in an efficient and effective manner. And so teachers are, getting those grades in place and having discussions at their teams about, where are students at this point of the school year. Also, some other fun things going on. We had a great walk and bike to school event on October 6th. Want to thank Officer Hughes for helping to organize that, get the word out. We called it Pack the Rack, Pack the Bike Rack, and a lot of my students actually want our bike rack that we loaned the middle school back because we need more space. We let them use it for a while, and we might need it back, Mr. Graff. We had to tie bikes to trees and sign posts and everything else. So anyway, that was a great event. A lot of students continue doing that on a daily basis and just being that helpful attitude and walking to school and keep that going, hopefully. Also, we're trying to, again, this year reduce our carbon footprint. We're doing recycling of plastic film. Last year, I think we were like number 3 in the nations for school our size, and if we can get to number 1, we get a recycled plastic Trex bench for our playground. So they're all about that. 4th graders are also pumped up about yearbook cover designs. Every year, like our yearbook for South and North, we asked 4th graders to submit like artwork that go along with that, and we have some great submissions this year, so it's going to be tough. All kindergarten through 4th grade students vote on their favorite choice, and they get a hardcover. Whoever is picked, they get that hardcover customized with their name on it. A few days left to submit those. And also, we're really excited about, I'm going to say it, our passion project for the end of the quarter. We're going to try it, first time ever, the 1 hour last school day of the quarter. Each adult at North is going to be having like some kind of activity. Mine's going to be chess club. I don't know how many kids are going to sign up for that in an hour, but they get their choice of first, second, third choice of about, I suppose about 45 activities, and they'll get one of those top 3, and then for an hour, all the adults will be leading students in a topic of their choice. So we're excited to see how that goes. That's going to be on the 29th of October.
Chess club.
Well, chess, learning
Yes, sir.
something.
You could have gone there.
1:30 on the 29th. Join us.
Be careful. Seriously, be careful.
Yeah, I love chess.
Standing room only.
Oh, yeah.
Like everybody who went before me, we are also focusing on that social emotional piece at the middle school. And with that, we have 2 new additions this year. The first is we're doing weekly, on Mondays, video announcements. And those video announcements are produced by adults, but they highlight students. So for example, last week, we highlighted a student in 6th grade PE who ran a 12-minute 3200. My job was to pace him, and I couldn't keep up. So I actually had to run every other lap. That's really fast. We highlighted our family consumer science class. 7th graders made some super, super delicious cookies. And we've also highlighted things like our art program or all of our sports teams. And the purpose of that weekly announcement is really just to show some pride and to really generate that interest in those extracurriculars and get people excited about being a middle schooler. And the other addition to our social emotional learning is we're calling it the AAA Award, which is a weekly award that goes out to students who are excelling in academics, arts, or athletics. And that's in addition to our monthly Saints All-Star, which is given out to 2 students per house who are excelling in Saints Pride or showing Saints Pride. Another cool thing that we have going on each year, Megan Gaber, our 5th and 6th grade science teacher, offers an opportunity for students to go with her to Gustavus for our Science and Nature Conference. That is on October 26th, the next Tuesday. And this year we have 60 5th and 6th graders who will be spending the day at GAC exploring their interests in science and nature. And then lastly, we're doing something very similar to what North is doing. We are not calling it the Passion Project.
Nope.
We're calling it, that's way more clever. We're just calling it Rewards Day or Celebration Day on October 29th, the last day of the quarter. an opportunity for kids to hang out with their teachers who have chosen various activities. Just a way to celebrate a great start to the year.
All right, I'll go next. You've been hearing about the Hoffman Center and their progression toward becoming the psychiatric residential treatment facility, and that stamp of approval has come through. So we are excited and looking forward to welcoming some new students. The facility has begun interviewing care teams for students that are on the wait list to get into our program. So we will start admitting one student at a time. And so our teachers are really just preparing right now for the change in student dynamics and what that does to our classroom dynamics. And I just applaud the flexibility of the teachers at the Hoffman Center this year. They have really done a nice job in preparing. So we're looking forward to that. Enrollment at Rock Bend is holding steady, much to the dismay of those on our wait list. But I'm continuing to work with Mr. Gronseth and Mr. Bachman as we explore creative ideas for better and larger space. Those students recently spent a day at McGowan's farm, and they did a day of service helping clean up History Fest and doing some other things out there. They really enjoy that learning opportunity. And they also just did a field trip to South Central College with Ben Winkles and Kelsey Hutchins, part of the Work Experience program and part of the College and Career Knowledge Month that is October. High school credit recovery is going to be starting in mid-November. We're doing 3 sessions of core content. So the first one starting in November, then one in January, and then one in April, May, kind of that last chance for our seniors. And then we have kind of a new thing that we're problem solving. We have more students than I've ever seen before. I guess I've only been here, this is my 6th year. But so in 6 years, more students than I've ever seen need elective credits. And I think that's a direct result of distance and hybrid learning, that students weren't successful in things like woodworking or art, more of those hands-on classes. Typically students do very well in those. So we're trying to think of some creative ways for students to make up those elective credits so that it's meaningful for them. So we're trying to do some work-based learning, some work and career seminar stuff, and then just some creative ways to do health and phy-ed in a credit recovery model as well. So again, like, I really applaud the teachers that are helping come up with these ideas that are going to be meaningful and interesting to our students. So that's what's going on with alternative programs.
Great. We were missing our student council representative tonight. We have co-presidents, Eva Croft and Sky Gassman, who are also our Lions Club Students of the Month. For those of you who've been on the board a while, you remember the Student Spotlight each month used to always be the high school Student of the Month. So remind me to mention that person every single month if I forget, because we decided to spread the love to the other buildings too, and we met a couple of great North kids this evening. But Eva and Sky could not attend. They are, of course, both very busy young women. They're in the fall musical, Mamma Mia, which will be the weekend before Thanksgiving. And they're having their first run-through tonight with all lines and songs memorized. So we'll be looking forward to hearing how that went tomorrow. I would really like to thank Shay Rohrkassi as well as our Gustavus neighbors. We hosted our first time in a while a home football game at Gustavus 2 Saturdays ago. It was great. It was perfect weather. Had a great turnout. We've won. We beat Marshall. So it was a great time. And thanks to Shay and Gustavus for making that happen. And to follow that up, fall activities are starting to wrap up. We've had a really successful run with all of our fall sports. And along with that, our first indoor concert in a while at the high school is coming up. The indoor marching band concert will be happening. I don't have that date ingrained in my memory, but check the calendar. Thank you. I've got a band parent back there. Perfect. And that's been moved around a little bit because of because of how well our sports are doing and some reschedules. So stay tuned. We're hoping it's going to that date. I loved how Mrs. Elke put it, that the kids are trying to figure out what it means to be in school again. We are having some interesting student behaviors that we haven't had in quite some time. That being said, we have amazing students doing great things. One of those activities is our P4T kids. As you know, Shay Rohr-Cassie has headed up that Project for Teens group that talks about positive interactions with peers and healthy lifestyle choices. Amanda Rodning is going to be taking over that group, and she's also a kid magnet. So we had 60 kids apply and interview for, I believe, 40 spots on that P4T team that will be then heading down to the middle school and talking to our middle schoolers about those things. So thank you to Shay for getting that kicked off and Amanda for taking it over. We're excited about that team. FFA will once again get to head to the national conference in Indianapolis next week. I think we have 7 kids at least going, boys and girls. So Mr. Reeser and Gina Lilienthal will be driving to Indianapolis with our FFA representatives. I had the opportunity to attend that a few years ago, and that's something to behold. It's like a sea of blue across the entire city. So I'm sure they'll have a great time. And my last announcement is about high school conference nights. We have an additional 4 conference nights at the high school, and I'll use the term nights loosely because the second conference is officially on the calendar for, I believe, the 26th. Well, hopefully we will be hosting a football game that night. So what we're doing, and I believe the other schools are also hosting virtual conferences, those are going to be invites by teachers and virtual conferences throughout the course of that week, where teachers are going to log the families that they've communicated with and logging their time. And hopefully in an attempt to connect and communicate with those families of kids who might be struggling in their classes. But as always, families who are interested in talking to and communicating with their kids' teachers can reach out anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Superintendent.
All right. I'll start tonight with the reminder that this is MEA week. So as much as our students and teachers want to be in school on Thursday and Friday, there is no school on Thursday and Friday. I think what you heard tonight from all of our principals is just this focus on academic and the social emotional needs of our students. We've all been through a lot over the past year and a half, 2 years almost, and that is certainly true for our students as well. And not only do they need support in those core academics, but as you heard, doing some relearning about what it means to be in school, to follow a schedule, to stay engaged, to spend all your time with other people. And our staff is doing an amazing job of really connecting with students, making sure that they're engaged in what's going on in class. And I know that the first 7 weeks of school have been a little tough, both on our students and on our staff. And I just want to recognize how hard our staff is working to make sure that they are meeting all of the needs that they're seeing. And whenever I've been in schools, which has been quite a bit lately, doing walkthroughs, when I go into classrooms, it is so evident that there are strong relationships being built between students and teachers, and just really starting to feel that classroom culture coming back, that magic that happens in the classroom. And I just want to recognize that doesn't happen without a lot of purposeful planning and a lot of purposeful effort on the part of all of our staff members. So They are going to be having a few days off and a much needed little respite. And so I hope that everyone has an opportunity to relax and enjoy a little bit. We are going to send them off by starting Wednesday morning with some cinnamon rolls and fruits and just some warm messages of thanks for all that they are doing for our students and our families. We also have the elections coming up right around the corner. As three of you know, there are 3 seats up for election. There are 10 names on the ballot. And so the operating referendum is also on the ballot. Everyone in the district has received the legally required mailings that include a ballot and information about the referendum. More is to follow. And we still have a few more community sessions on the schedule. Folks can come and hear me talk about the referendum, answer any questions they might have. I have received a few phone calls, and I'm more than happy to talk to people and answer the questions that they have. There is a lot of information on our website, as well as a schedule of upcoming meetings. And there's also a tax estimator QR code on the website, so people can go and enter their appraised value of their property and find out exactly what the referendum would mean to them. As I've mentioned before, this referendum proposal is replacing a referendum that is set to expire in December of this year and would start in January. The proposal is for $410 per pupil. So I know that the ballot language can be a bit confusing because it says the proposal is to increase by $410. That is one of the questions that people have asked when they called me. They said it says by 410. So here's the tricky part. The referendum is set to expire in December. When it expires, it goes down to 0. The new one starts in January, so it's going up by $410 because it starts over again at 0. The total of the referendum is $410 per pupil. What that translates into for the average homeowner in St. Peter is about $5 a month or $60 a year. That's based on the average home of $150,000 of assessed value. So we encourage everyone to learn everything they can about the referendum and about the election for the school board members coming up, and encourage you to get out and vote.
Thank you. With that, we get to board members and around the table. Drew?
Nothing for me?
Nothing from me.
Tracy?
I have a couple things.
Yeah.
One, I want to thank you for updating the COVID information on the website daily. That's been nice to see, and knock on wood, it's nice to see the numbers staying good, but I'm glad that we have it up there because that's one thing I get asked a lot. Another thing is for us to consider, like, I know that this live kind of, you can watch it if you have the cable access, which probably I think 3 or 4 people in St. Peter probably do. And what would be, I know other districts have done just to be able to sit at home on your computer and look at it live, if that is an option for us. Not that you have to have an answer for that right now. But that would be, and then at our study board sessions, we don't need to broadcast those live, but I would like us to have an audio recording of it, just so if there is a question about what was talked about at the meeting, and when Sarah's doing her minutes, then we'd be able to go back and listen to the audio. With that being said, now I have a question. When the Gustavus football game happened, I've been asked this, and I don't know. Who got the gate, who got the concessions, and do we pay them a fee?
We got the gate, Gustavus gets concessions, and we did not pay them a fee this time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excellent.
It was kind of an exchange, right? Didn't
Yeah.
we, Gustavus had to use the St. Peter High School field?
Yeah, a couple of years ago when there was a heat wave, it was the Gus and Johnny game at the high school field. So we were happy to host that.
Is there ever a time, I just know from being on the Booster Club and the concessions, that's a huge fundraiser for us, and obviously football games are some of the biggest, so that is never a negotiable item for us to try to get our own concessions instead? Have that ever been talked about?
I don't think that it is because they have to have their own personnel working
Gotcha.
there. And it's somebody who is, the safe serve licensure in their space.
Okay. Thank you.
A couple things. We should maybe look at buying a bike rack so that principals don't fight with each other.
Noted.
Second off, a shameless plug for FFA. As a former member, Sea of Blue is a good thing, and it is a good organization that everyone should be in. That's all I got.
Thank you. With that, we have just a few upcoming meetings. We have negotiations on Monday, October 25th at 4:30 in the middle school conference room. We have a special board meeting on Monday, November 8th at 6:30 in the middle school media center, and that is to canvass election results. And then our regular board meeting will be Monday, November 15th at 6:30 p.m. back here in the governor's room of the St. Peter Community Center. I think we would all happily entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tracy.
Second.
Somebody has to second it.
That's one motion that can't die for lack of a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.